today with Bobby Miller of Asset Development Incorporated, and just wanted to ask you a few questions about your company, Bobby. Can you tell us a little bit about Asset and what inspired you to start building homes here in Maine?
So Asset Development's been around for, well, we incorporated or established, I should say, back in 2010. We've been at this a lot longer than the last 15 years building homes, but Asset itself, 15 years. And 26 years in the market, building, developing, and creating properties all throughout basically Maine itself. But we kind of chose Central Maine because that's basically the hub for us for all of Maine. Mm-hmm. And that's where our main operation is based out of, but we build all through the whole entire state.
Right. Now, did you start here in the Central Maine area? Where did you start in 2010?
2010 was actually out of Bangor.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of the bedroom communities of Bangor, so Herman, Winterport, even did Orono actually.
Mm-hmm.
And
then found that you needed a central hub.
Correct.
And that's why you chose the Chelsea area.
Yes.
What are your signature features that set some of your homes apart from other builders and developers in this area?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because we've been at this for a long, long time. So if you go way, way back, all builders, all developers were basically just stick building folks, right? So you sell a house and deliver lumber to the project, and you just start cutting and sticking every part of the house, right? So there's a lot of time lost when you build a house that way, and of course we're in a four-season state, so you kind of get bunged up in the the elements, and it can, of course, it just slows the process down tremendously, which hurts the buyer, makes them frustrated on timeline. So we kind of migrated more towards component manufacturing about 15 or so years ago, which is basically everything is panelized in a shop, floor trusses, wall panels, roof trusses, and delivered to the job site. So what that does is literally takes what could be potentially a 6 to 9 or 10 or even a 12-month build down to less than 120 days from the time you start ground construction.
But it's not like a modular home or anything.
No, it's not actually. And modular homes is even itself is another whole different animal as opposed to 20 years ago. But
Correct.
It's not a modular house, no. Modular homes are built in a controlled environment and shipped over the road.
Right.
And set in place by boxes on the project. And when you build a component manufactured product, it is, yes, built in a controlled environment as panels and shipped to you, and then we put those pieces together like a Lego set on the project.
Wonderful. Thanks for that explanation, because, want to make sure we know the difference.
Yeah, and even that explanation probably doesn't give it the true, how it actually works, but it's a different world than stick building to panelization.
And if anybody has any questions, are they more than happy to meet up and make an appointment and come in and see what's going on?
Absolutely. We'd love for that. I mean, I think that's our better way to sit down with the buyer, explain to them how that process actually works. A lot of times I think buyers hear about some of the old horror stories or even have done builds before, and they have done those builds and didn't have good experiences and were told a deadline and never met the deadline. But this is a different illustration of start to completion.
Awesome. Do you offer flexibility in floor plans, upgrades, finishes? If so, how much customization can or will you allow buyers?
Yeah, I think it's important to offer that to a buyer. I mean, a buyer obviously sometimes when they first start out with a plan or a conceptual or look at one of our plans, don't maybe truly know 100% what they want, but knowing that they feel like they have that flexibility to expand or come in as an open palette, right? A free palette, and we can build from that. But yeah, we can customize from something very basic to something very, very elaborate. There's really nothing that we won't touch or do.
And you offer allowances for things like
Absolutely.
that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Wonderful. And the subdivision that you've got in Grandview Heights, you have multiple lots, multiple opportunities for different types of homes. So your customers, buyers could come in and say they want lot number 1, which happens to be on a nice slope. And they're like, we want a ranch. How would you work that into that lot, like if they wanted a ranch?
Yeah, so I think first of all, we sit with the buyer and look at what their wants and needs and wishes are, and we build from that. So if they think they want a sloping lot or a flat lot or a wooded lot or a field lot, and then they take the house that they think they have in mind, we would marry those two things together, right? And then basically help them understand what home would work the best on what lot and pair them together that way, I think. But it comes through the conversation of collaborating with the buyer to make sure we're hitting all of the boxes they want to check.
Perfect. Great. What is your typical timeline from foundation to CO? And CO will explain that certificate of occupancy that you get
Correct.
from the town that the home is built in.
Correct. So, and again, not to get too much into the whole weeds of the process, but
Correct.
traditionally, meet with the buyer, finalize a house plan, right? Once we have that, behind us, call it day 30 is, 0 to 30 days is the earthwork, foundation, well, septic, all the good stuff. While that's happening, we're producing their home, they're ordering their windows, their trusses, they're picking out their kitchen design, all of the things that would take the house, and compartmentalize that down to a build schedule. So to answer your question, traditionally from groundbreaking to the COO is about 120 days.
Okay.
That can flex a little bit, but not by much. What pushes that around some could be what you chose for a kitchen. Maybe it's on a back order, or maybe we got a snowstorm and you got to push out a couple of days and clean up. But usually we're bumping either side under 120 or just barely over it. But it's 120 is kind of always a sweet spot.
Wonderful. What sets asset development and the process apart from other builders, developers? We kind of talked about that a little bit in some of the previous questions, but if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a lot of things we just said. So I think that, again, not being a stick builder, not being just a builder, but we're also a component manufacturer, and we're also a developer. So developer offers a whole entire level of pedigree to a knowledge of producing a product, right? So it's not just pulling a permit and just producing a house. So that, I think, sets us aside as well as our knowledge base. Our tremendous infrastructure. A lot of folks out there, not putting any of the builders down, don't have our bandwidth, don't have our infrastructure, don't have the folks in place to, when you sell a house, to be able to print that house out on demand. So we have that, and we've honed that for years, right? And we've gotten better with that. I think that's a big thing that sets us aside. Another thing would be the component manufacturing and producing a house panelized versus the old school way of just stick building.
And I know in our conversations that we've had that over the years you've developed some systems in place so that when a buyer comes, there's a schedule of time frames and people that are going to take them through the process. So once their agent and the buyer put through a purchase and sale agreement, it's going to go to the next step, which would be to asset development and your...
That's another important piece there too. I mean, and again, not to get into what other folks do, but a lot of what we do to try to help streamline the process for the buyer is once you do sign a P&S and you've chosen your house, we have what's called a buyer vendor intro that goes out to our core team. Our core team will then take that buyer through the whole process. They'll help them pick out their kitchen, design their kitchen, their appliance package, their flooring, their paint colors, their plumbing fixtures, their light fixtures, even the color siding and the color shingles on their roof, and they'll tie it all together for them. And basically it's like an a la carte process.
Right.
So the buyer's not left out there by themselves just in,
Yeah.
what do I do next? And where do I go
looking
next?
at a panel of different shingle colors and not having any
Right.
idea of what and how to make that.
Right. And our team, I mean, these are decades-long seasoned professionals in their
Right.
field. They're very, very well at what they do. They're very knowledge-based when it comes to the products, the services that the buyer may want to choose. A lot of things that I think a lot of buyers sometimes don't even know what questions to ask,
Right.
when they're trying to pick out something for themselves. And these folks are very, very versed in that.
Awesome. So why did you choose this area, more specifically Grandview Heights, to do your next development?
So I can answer that question probably a couple of different ways. An easier way to answer it would be to start out with that we own several different companies. Central Maine is a hub for us for a lot of our other operations, and of course in Central Maine, it's an easy jaunt for us to go north, south, coast, or the mountains. So this is our base of our operation, right? Sidney is attractive because you sit between Waterville and Augusta. It's a veteran community with a very, I don't want to say low taxes, but it's an appropriate tax. I think that it's attractive for a lot of people, and you are minutes to either major city, but you're also just enough out of the major city to enjoy peace and quiet and be relaxed in your home that you purchase.
Wonderful. When a buyer chooses one of your homes, what do you hope they feel the first time they walk through that door?
Well, that can be answered a lot of different ways too, I think. Hooray, let's party. I don't know. I mean, I think probably just like a sense of accomplishment. Like, wow, they say getting married and building a house are like the major stressors. And we want to take the house building process of being so stressed and make it an enjoyable experience for them and very happy. We want them to feel like they've got something that they were looking forward to and that pieces of accomplishment. and then want them to be able to say, you know what, I would recommend you to my relatives, to my friends. We want them to feel great about their purchase,
Right.
and not be like, oh, that was a horrible process, and glad that's behind us, and never want to do that again. I want them to feel like that was a great process, and boy, I would do that again with our company.
Right, especially with the, hopefully 120 days. I mean, because their friend just is having one built and it's going to take a whole year.
Correct. I want to touch on the 122 as well. I think that, and I've sat with hundreds of buyers. We've built hundreds of homes over the years. And I've had buyers sit with me that will watch our progress pictures and other different things in our process of our build and say they were sold from the first time they actually saw and continue to follow us, but never even liked to post on Facebook, for example, or even commented.
Yeah.
But they just saw the process and were so transparent. I think that sometimes people might feel, well, when you get into call it a fast build, you must jeopardize the integrity and the quality of the product and the process. No,
Right.
we actually don't. We have a lot of check valves along the way. We have certain inspections that are happening along the way, and it's just a very well-oiled machine, along with being component manufacturing, which makes it a fast process. But there's nothing skipped. There's no corners cut. Quality is probably the best, I would say. I'm not being impartial to my own company, but or partial to my own company, but it's very impressive.
Wonderful. I want to thank you, Bobby, today for taking the time and giving us a little insight on how your company works.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out and want to take it and have a sit down and go over the process with us, and I look forward to doing business with you and your company.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.